Howdy everybody, welcome to another episode of Forgotten Texas History with your host, the Texas adventurer Chris Larson. I'm here in Weimar today. So in January 1894, a man named D. Braddock was taking the train from Flatonia into Houston. And he got drunk and started making an ass out of himself and was being rough with the other passengers. So the conductor stopped the train and put him off. When the train started up again, he threw a rock and broke one of the windows out and then pulled his pistol and shot at the train, and luckily nobody was injured. But when the train pulled into Columbus, the conductor got off and found the sheriff, Light Townsend, and told him what had happened. So old Light got his deputy Sam Reese, and they formed a posse and rode back down the railroad tracks. So they found D walking on this track with some other man he just picked up along the way. And anyway, they arrested D and brought him back here to Weimar and put him in the local jail to deal with him later. So the best I can tell, the jail used to stand right there on the corner where the museum is now. So the jailer here in Weimar was a young man named Moses Townsend. He was a nephew of Light Townsend. And he was kind of young and inexperienced. Anyway, when he was bringing the food to D in jail, D told him he was feeling ill and asked me to have a glass of water. So he turned his back on him to get him some water. And when he did, old D pulled a knife out and stabbed him right in the chest. So then he left him there bleeding and went outside and stole his horse and his gun and rode away. Moses died from the injury. It took him a couple days to die, but he passed away from the knife wound in his chest. So they had a huge manhunt, lasted a few weeks, and he rode off south towards Eagle Lake, and so there's a bunch of thickets down there. So they went all through the thickets looking for him. After 2 weeks, they couldn't find him. Well, then Sheriff Dixon from Wharton County sent word that he knew where he was hiding out. So he had a whole gang of outlaws hiding out down in Wharton in a thicket down there. So Light and Sam Reese rode down to Wharton and got with the sheriff and a posse, and they all snuck into the thicket. Well, the guy who had hit him out there was named H.H. Moore, and he let the outlaws know that they were coming after him. So whenever the posse showed up, they ambushed the posse, got in a big gunfight, and the Wharton County Sheriff was killed outright, but D. Braddock was killed also in the shootout. And so then Sam Reese and Light Townsend went out chasing this guy H.H. Moore, who had tipped off the outlaws they were coming. So this guy H.H. Moore was a known hired gunman for Bob Stanford there in Columbus for the range war they were having in the prairies south of Columbus around Eagle Lake. That was all open range, and him being the largest cattleman around, he figured that all the mavericks down there belonged to him, but all the poor locals, they were mavericks, and so they were branding them themselves, and that's how the range war was. And anyway, so they were riding back from Wharton, and they see H.H. Moore ride in the opposite direction. So they ride up to him and tell him to throw up his hands, and he decided he wanted to shoot it out. But so he was getting his shotgun out of his saddle, and well, Light was ready for him and already had his Winchester up and shot him full of holes and killed him out there in the prairie. So this big oak tree marks Light Townsend's homestead. So he died here. He got food poisoning and died in his house. And it was 6 days after he had been re-elected sheriff. After he passed away, that's when Sam Reese became sheriff. So if you like my content, please like, share, and subscribe, and y'all keep exploring Texas.